paradise shattered when the mightiest of gods turned against his own kind. Before stars graced the heavens, 15 beings of unfathomable power came to Varda. Their songs wove reality itself, their battles carved continents. 8 lords and 7 queens, each commanding forces beyond mortal comprehension. These were the Valar, the shapers of Middle-earth. Let us begin with those who stood above all others, the supreme powers themselves. In the beginning, Melkor stood as the most powerful of all Valar, possessing a portion of every gift given to his fellow divine beings. He once sought the flame imperishable in the void, desiring to create life of his own. Later, he disrupted the music of the Ainur that was meant to shape reality, introducing discord that would echo through all ages. To Melkor, among the Ainur, had been given the greatest gifts of power and knowledge, and he had a share in all the gifts of his brethren. He had gone often alone into the void places, seeking the imperishable flame, for desire grew hot within him to bring into being things of his own, and it seemed to him that Ilúvatar took no thought for the void, and he was impatient of its emptiness. Yet he found not the fire, for it is with Ilúvatar. In his northern strongholds he bred monsters and demons that plagued Middle-earth for millennia. His armies of orcs, twisted from captured elves, would threaten all free peoples until the end of time. When the Valar raised the 2 lamps to illuminate the world, Melkor struck them down, plunging the world into darkness. Ages later, with the help of Ungoliant, a being of shadow and hunger, Melkor destroyed the 2 trees of Valinor and stole the Silmarils, 3 jewels containing the tree's last light. This theft again sparked wars that reshaped continents. But where darkness sought to destroy, light rose to challenge it. From the highest mountain in the world, another power watched over all. From his throne atop Mount Taniqetil, the highest peak in existence, Manwë ruled as king of the Valar and served as the chief servant of Iarlu Ilúvatar. His domain was the winds and air itself, and through his mastery of these elements, he could see and hear all that moved across Middle-earth. The great eagles served as his messengers and warriors, patrolling the skies of Middle-earth under the leadership of Thorondor, their leader. When darkness claimed the world once more after the 2 trees' destruction, Manwë commanded the creation of the sun and moon to light the world anew. It was him who decided to invite the elves to Valinor, leading to both great achievements and terrible conflicts. Yet it was his mercy led him to free Melkor from imprisonment, a decision with catastrophic consequences. But even after this betrayal, Manwë continued to guide the world from afar. Through his eagles, he watched over Middle-earth's struggles, intervening at crucial moments to aid those who fought against darkness. At his side stood a queen whose very presence made shadows flee, a power that even Melkor himself had learned to fear. Before the world began, Varda, the wife of Manwë, refused Melkor's attempts to draw her to his side, earning his eternal hatred. As Queen of the Valar, she wielded the power of pure light itself. Before the awakening of elves, she took the silvery dew from the 2 trees and created the stars, filling the black void above with countless points of light. With Manwë dwells Varda, Lady of the Stars, who knows all the regions of Ea. Too great is her beauty to be declared in the words of men or of elves, for the light of Ilúvatar lives still in her face. In light is her power and her joy. Out of the deeps of Ea, she came to the aid of Manwë. For Melkor she knew from before the making of the music, and rejected him, and he hated her, and feared her more than all others whom Iarlu made. The elves loved Varda above all other Valar, for her stars were the first sight they saw upon awakening. From her throne beside Manwë atop Taniqetil, she could hear any prayer uttered in her name, no matter how far. Even in the Third Age, elves would still sing to Varda in times of darkness and despair, also known as Elbereth Gilthoniel, and Melkor's servants feared her name above all others. Yet the stars were not the only realm beyond Melkor's grasp. In the endless waters that covered most of Arda, another power held dominion. While Valar retreated to Valinor, Ulmo rarely left his palace in the outer ocean. He ruled all waters, from the mightiest seas to the smallest streams. Through these waterways, he could reach any corner of the world, speaking to those who would listen through the music of flowing water. During the darkest times of the First Age, Ulmo aided the free peoples against Morgoth's tyranny. He guided Turgon to the hidden valley where Gondolin would rise, creating a haven that would last for centuries. Throughout these trials, Ulmo's power remained inviolate. Even Melkor, at the height of his power, could not corrupt or control the waters. The Sea King's realm remained forever beyond the Dark Lord's reach, providing paths of escape and renewal for those who fought against darkness. While Ulmo shaped the waters above, another Valar worked tirelessly below, forging the very foundations of the world. Master of craft and earth, Aulë shaped the very bones of the world. His hammer rang through the depths, raising mountains and carving valleys. His hammer forged Anganor to bind Melkor in chains, and his tools crafted the gleaming vessels to bear sun and moon aloft. Aulë has might little less than Ulmo. His lordship is over all the substances of which Arda is made. In the beginning, he wrought much in fellowship with Manwë and Ulmo, and the fashioning of all lands was his labor. He is a smith and a master of all crafts, and he delights in works of skill, however small, as much as in the mighty building of old. But his most fascinating creation sprang from burning desire. Consumed by longing for Eru's children to awaken, Aulë crafted the seven fathers of the Dwarves in secret. When Eru discovered them, Aulë prepared to destroy his creations, showing true humility before his maker. Seeing this, Eru granted the Dwarves true life, though they would sleep until after the elves' awakening. Aulë taught the Dwarves their crafts and bestowed upon them Khuzdul, their secret language. His influence lived on in their great works, the halls of Khazad-dûm, the kingdoms under the mountains, and all the marvels they would create through the ages. The Dwarves named him Mahal, the Maker, and in their hands stone and metal sang as they had under his hammer. If Aulë commanded stone and metal, his wife held mastery over everything that drew breath from the earth. Queen of earth and giver of fruits, Yavanna's power flowed across Middle-earth, shaping forests, awakening grasslands, and blessing every growing thing. After the destruction of the two lamps, she poured her power into song and raised forth Telperion and Lárelin, the two trees of Valinor, whose mingled silver and golden light brought radiance to Valinor. When she foresaw that her husband Aulë's dwarves would fell trees without thought, Yavanna begged Manwë for protection of her works. This led to the creation of the Ents, shepherds of the forest who would guard the trees through all ages of the world. After Melkor and Ungoliant destroyed the two trees, Yavanna attempted to revive them with all her power. Though she couldn't restore them fully, her efforts preserved enough light for their last flower and fruit to become the sun and moon. Her power lived on, from the malorn trees of Lórien to the smallest flower pushing through snow. But not all growing things were safe in those early days. Through the wild places of the world, a great hunter sought out darker creatures. During the time of Melkor's domination, Oromë thundered through Middle-earth on his great steed Nahar, hunting Melkor's creatures. His mighty horn Valaroma echoed across mountains and forests, its call bringing hope to the hunted and terror to evil things. Wolves fled at the sound of his approach, and darker creatures slunk back to their hidden lairs. And in the twilight of the world, Oromë would sound the Valaroma, his great horn, upon the plains of Arda, whereat the mountains echoed, and the shadows of evil fled away, and Melkor himself quailed in Utumno, foreboding the wrath to come. When the firstborn, the elves, awakened by the waters of Quivinen, it was Oromë, among all the Valar, who first discovered them. He would later guide them on their great journey to Valinor, protecting them from the darkness that stalked their path. Even after retreating to Valinor, Oromë's influence remained in the skills he taught the elves: horsemanship, hunting, and archery. arts that would prove vital in their long wars against darkness. While Oromë rode through forests tracking dark creatures, his wife brought life and joy to the wilder places of the world. Wife to Oromë, younger sister to Yavanna, she wielded power over nature's perpetual renewal. Where she walked, flowers bloomed in her footsteps, and birds erupted in song. Golden flowers opened at her glance, and spring itself seemed to follow in her wake. In her gardens, she would guide powerful spirits, Melian, who became queen of Doriath, and Arian, who would steer the sun's vessel through the skies. Even after darkness entered the world, her realm would remain a place of endless renewal, where winter never came and flowers never faded. Yet beauty alone could not protect paradise. When darkness threatened, raw strength answered the call. Last of the Valar to enter the world, Tulkas Astaldo, greatest in strength and deeds of prowess, came like a mighty wind, his anger scattering cloud and darkness before him. When all others had failed to catch him, Tulkas pursued Melkor tirelessly, and the Dark Lord fled before his wrath and laughter, seeding an eternal hatred between them as he abandoned Utumno. And there was peace for a long age, and Tulkas remained and became one of the Valar of the kingdom of Arda. But Melkor brooded in the outer darkness, and his hate was given to Tulkas forever after. In combat, Tulkas fought with bare hands, requiring neither weapon nor armor. His laughter in battle struck fear into enemies, while his golden hair and beard shone in the heat of combat. During Melkor's capture, Tulkas personally wrestled him into submission, allowing Aule's chain Anganor to bind the Dark Lord for 3 ages. Even after Melkor's release, Tulkas remained watchful, never trusting the Dark Lord's apparent reformation. His suspicions proved right when Melkor later destroyed the 2 trees. In the War of Wrath at the end of the First Age, Tulkas' strength proved vital again, helping to cast Melkor into the void beyond the world. While Tulkas dealt with matters of strength and combat, another Valar concerned himself with deeper mysteries, the fate of spirits after death. From his halls in the west, Mandos kept watch over the spirits of the dead. In these vast chambers, he gathered the fallen elves, tending their spirits until the time came for rebirth or lingering. His voice rang with the authority of fate itself, though the final judgment remained with Eru alone. When the Noldor rebelled and stained their blades with kindred blood at Alqualondë, Mandos raised his voice in doom, pronouncing the exile and suffering that would shadow their path through centuries of war. Yet even this unyielding guardian of death could be moved. When Lórien knelt before his throne and filled his halls with song, Mandos brought her plea before Manwë, and through Ilúvatar's grace, Beren returned to life. Through all the ages of strife, Mandos stood witness to the consequences of choice and fate. He housed the slain, spoke the dooms of kingdoms, and preserved the memory of all that was and would be. His pronouncements echoed through time, not as judgment, but as truth unveiled, for in his halls, all deeds found their final accounting. Within Mandos's halls worked another power, one who captured all of history's threads in an ever-growing tapestry. In these halls, Mandos's wife, Vairë the Weaver, set her looms to never-ceasing work. Her tapestries covered every wall, growing as time itself unfolded. Each thread captured not just events, but their full meaning and consequence. Battles, betrayals, loves and losses, all woven into an endless historical record. As ages passed, Vairë's hands wove every thread of history into her vast work, from the first note of the great music to the burning ships at Losgár, from the fall of Gondolin to Fëanor's last stand against Morgoth's Balrogs. Each thread bore witness to how pride and power could shatter even the mightiest realms. While Vairë recorded the sorrows of the world, another Valar taught the value of grief itself. Sister of Mandos and Lórien, Nienna's song turned to lamentation even as the music of the Ainur unfolded, weaving mourning into the very themes of the world before its beginning. Her tears watered the 2 trees, mixing with the light to give them greater strength. She is acquainted with grief and mourns for every wound that Arda has suffered in the marring of Melkor. But she does not weep for herself, and those who hearken to her learn pity and endurance in hope. In her halls, Nienna took Lórien, who would become Gandalf, as her student. She taught him how pity and mercy could overcome power and pride. When Melkor knelt before the Valar after 3 ages in chains, Nienna pleaded for mercy. Her compassion turned to grief when Melkor's malice was unveiled, and darkness crept back into the Blessed Realm. Through all ages she dwelt in the far west, looking out over the walls of the world. Her grief was not despair, but understanding, teaching that through loss could come renewal, and through suffering, wisdom. While Nienna taught through sorrow, her brother ruled a gentler realm where healing came through dreams. In gardens more beautiful than any mortal dream, Ulmo Lórien tended the realm of rest and visions. His gardens offered solace to weary spirits, where even the Valar themselves would seek respite from the cares of Arda. When Míriel came to his gardens after bearing Fëanor, Lórien surrounded her with healing peace. Though his gentle power could not restore her depleted spirit, his gardens gave her rest before she chose the path to Mandos's halls. Through dreams and visions, his influence touched both elves and men in Middle-earth, bringing counsel in times of need. While Lórien worked through dreams and visions, his wife managed a different kind of healing. On an island in the midst of Lake Lórien, Estë worked her healing arts. During daylight, she slept beneath the silver-branched trees, while at night she rose to mend hurts both physical and spiritual. Estë, the gentle healer of hurts and of weariness, is his spouse. Grey is her raiment, and rest is her gift. She walks not by day, but sleeps upon an island in the tree-shadowed lake of Lórien. From the fountains of Ulmo and Estë, all those who dwell in Valinor draw refreshment. Before departing for Middle-earth, Melian served in Estë's gardens, learning arts of healing and protection she would later use to guard the kingdom of Doriath. The power of rest and renewal in Rivendell and Lothlórien echoed Estë's influence, creating havens where weary spirits could find strength. Some said, even after the Valar retreated from direct intervention in Middle-earth, Estë's power continued through the healing arts she had taught to elves and her former servants. Her influence lived on in every house of healing and in all places where the weary found rest. While Estë brought healing through rest, the youngest of the Valar brought renewal through endless motion. Swift as a deer and forever young, Nessa, sister of Oromë, brought dance and celebration to Valinor. Her movements could charm deer into dancing with her through endless forests. At the feast of the spring of Arda, she danced before all the Valar as she wed Tulkas, and their joy marked a rare celebration of that age. And it is sung that in that feast of the spring of Arda Tulkas espoused Nessa, the sister of Oromë, and she danced before the Valar upon the green grass of Almaren. During the years of the trees, her celebrations filled Valinor with merriment, despite the shadow of Melkor. Light of foot and swift in movement, she raced through the Blessed Realm, her joy and energy balancing the more solemn powers of her fellow Valar. Within the Blessed Realm, her dances continued through all ages, bringing delight to the undying lands, and reminding all that even in times of sorrow, joy could still be found. Though most of the Valar retreated to Valinor after the First Age, their marks remained forever upon Middle-earth. Mountains they raised still stood, seas they moved still flowed, and stories of their deeds lived on in ancient songs. And in the deepest nights, when stars shine brightest, some claim they can still hear Varda's songs carried on Manwë's winds, a reminder that the gods have not forgotten Middle-earth.